everyone, welcome to Traveling Bits. I am Jeet. These are extraordinary times due to COVID-19 pandemic. Today we will be talking to a traveler, Flaminia, who is also known as Mina from Rome, Italy, which is one of the hotspots of this pandemic. She blogs on travel on her website thrivecuriously.com. Welcome Mina to Traveling Bits.
Thank you.
First of all, could you please tell us in brief about yourself, your background?
So I'm currently located here in Rome, Italy. I'm Italian American. So my family is American, and I was fortunate enough to go to international school. So I speak English and Italian. During my travels, I decided to take my university experience outside of the States, and I came back here to Europe and decided to move to Spain for 2 years. So I learned Spanish on top of that. I was working in an office-based 9-to-5 job. Well, if you're in Spain, it's usually a 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. job. And I decided that there was more to life, so I wanted to start traveling. So I started traveling around south of Spain, south of France, and then I decided, you know what, I want to be able to work remote as well as travel. So I decided to move to Indonesia for 6 months, and I learned a little bit of Indonesian while I was there, because every single time that I visit a certain place, I love to get to know the local community, get to know the local language, and that's very important to me. So after that, I ended up in Vietnam for a month. I'm trying to backtrack to where I've been in this last year. In Vietnam for 1 month, that was just for fun and travels. Met a lot of interesting and fantastic humans there. And then I landed in Colombia. So it's been a pretty exciting journey. I was in Colombia for about a month and a half, almost 2 months. And I would say a couple of the projects that I've been working on have all been social impact driven. So I'm currently working for a nonprofit organization, social enterprise called Nomads Giving Back. And it brings this concept of nomads, people that are able to travel, work remote, but also give back to local communities and provide impact in ways that they can help people during their stay.
All right, and all this just after completing your university?
Yes.
All right. So any special meaning behind Thrive Curiously?
That's a great question. Actually, yes. So it started from when I was speaking with my roommate in Barcelona. She was from Germany, and she told me just all of a sudden we'd always have these sort of deep conversations on the couch. And she came up to me and she was like, you know what? Life is about surviving. And I was like, what? Life is not about surviving. You don't just live life to survive. Maybe many people do, and those might be unfortunate circumstances. But we're in very fortunate circumstances that we're able to thrive in life. We're able to make the most out of our life. So that's where the word thrive came from. And my sort of motto in life is to always be curious, is to stay curious. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to combine those two words together. It might be hard to pronounce in different languages, as I've heard. So I decided, you know what, this is something that resonates with my heart, and I hope it resonates with others as well. So that's where Thrive Curiously came from.
All right. So Mina, how many countries did you travel, and which one are your favorite?
That's always a hard question. I feel like so many people always ask, what's your favorite country? And it's so hard because it depends on what state of mind you're at that time, right? So I would say, wow, to actually number the places that I've been, that's a little bit hard. I feel like I'm going to say probably like 10 countries, maybe. And most importantly, I would say probably my favorites. It depends on what you value as a favorite, right? I think a lot of the experiences that we come across during our travels are the people that we come across. And that can either sometimes make or break your experience. And I've noticed that throughout my travels, it was meeting the local people, the people of that city, as well as other nomad travelers. Although I would say my situation is a little bit different in the case that I'm able to bring my work with me. So wherever I go, I'm able to stay in a cafe for 8 hours and get to know the waiters and get to know the waitresses, especially if you speak the local language or if you don't. So I would say probably my favorite for the time being, because it's the most fresh in my mind, is Colombia. I always wanted to go to Latin America, and there's just something about, especially also Italians and Europe and also the Spanish, we have this sort of, I guess, attitude and like spiciness that we love to communicate amongst each other. And I'm a big fan of reggaeton music, Latin salsa dancing. So I feel like that was also the cherry on top to my whole Latin experience. So yes, I would say Colombia would probably be my favorite as of now.
Okay. Uh, have you done solo travel? And if yes, what is your take on that?
I have. I've actually almost only done solo traveling.
Okay.
So my first experience was after I was working the 9 to 5 job in Barcelona, Spain, when I was there for 2 years. And I had this inner drive. It was actually after I'd read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I don't know if you've ever heard of that book. It's a fantastic book. It allows you to really live in the present moment, and it allows you to really appreciate your surroundings and the life that you're able to live. So I thought, you know what? I want to step out of my comfort zone. I feel like change can't happen unless you make change happen. And so I decided to solo travel. And
Okay.
it was hard in the beginning because I do love people. I adore people. I'm a people person, but I also love my personal time. You know, I feel like we all need to sort of sit and chill and watch Netflix and just reboot our juices, right? So it was a very interesting experience from that perspective because I was able to learn a lot of things about myself that I feel like otherwise I couldn't have if I were in a group of people while traveling. And I would say solo traveling is not something I would definitely prefer. I feel like traveling with people and solo traveling each have their advantages and disadvantages. If you'd like me to get into some of the disadvantages and advantages, I can do so. But in general, I just feel like solo traveling really does open your mind into what you're comfortable doing. Are you comfortable going to a bar alone, not knowing anyone, and starting conversation? Of course, I'd have to say probably gender does play a role. I've heard from many solo traveling male friends that usually for them, they may not be as approached as much as females. I think females, you know, just from depending on the culture that you're at, either can be more approachable or whatever that looks like. But depending on those experiences, you can socialize if you want to, you can not socialize if you want to. You know, you decide your agenda for the day. If you want a split-second decision, say, oh, I was on my way to the museum, but you know what? I feel like going to the park. You know, and you don't have to talk about it with anybody. You can just go and do it. And that's the great advantage of that as well.
Great. What does travel mean to you?
It's a great question. To be honest, like when I think of traveling, I really think of the local communities. Like I think of eating the local culture. I think of the local currency, the people, the mindset, their perspective on things. And I've noticed throughout my travels in the countries that I visited, all in all, we're all kind of the same. We're all people. We're all humans. You know, we each have our own cultures. We each have our own journeys. But no matter what that looks like, I've just noticed that there's no reason for us to judge. Like traveling for me has opened, even before traveling, I had my eyes open to different cultures due to going to international school, right? I was always surrounded by different cultures. You know, one weekend you would go over to your Indian friend's house, right? And she'd make some amazing tandoori chicken or whatever that looked like. So, you know, that to me was such an amazing experience. Even as a young child, I had access to that. So to take that upon myself to start traveling and to really access those points of starting conversations and getting to know people and getting to know families, and there's nothing like seeing their face when you learn their local language. I remember when I went to Indonesia, the local people that I've met, they were so shocked that I took the time to learn some of their words and some of their, you know, slang words. And like, you know, I'd even try to be quirky about it. And so like, that's why I travel. I travel to meet different people that I otherwise would not be able to meet if I stayed in my house or if I stayed in my surroundings. And to be honest, the friendships that I've made throughout my travels have actually resulted in being stronger than the friendships I've made in high school.
Okay, That's a very different perspective to hear. All right. So, did travel change you as a person? If yes, how?
It definitely did, yes. Traveling allowed me to understand that I'm comfortable being with myself, that due to my experience solo traveling, I noticed that I'm able to hang out with me. You know, like not only hang out with people, but you're also hanging out with yourself. You know, we've got our thoughts, we've always got our own running, you know, mantra or whatever that looks like in our head. But when it comes to a point when you're like, wow, like I feel at peace with me, that is probably something that was a really great eye-opening experience for myself. And that was probably from a self-intro perspective experience. That's what changed me throughout my travels.